Emmerdale Farm, EastEnders, Coronation Street. I just think they're kind of running out of steam. I hope it lives forever, but I can't see it myself.
You actually took a big risk as an actor to campaign against woke madness.
I learned at a very young age, above all else, to thine own self be true.
As a straight, slightly older, white man, you are now an endangered species on television. People have been terrified into silence.
If Greg Wallace said something that offended her, why in the name of God didn't she just turn around and say, shut the f up, Baldy? But we're in this culture where everybody's getting offended.
We cannot be cancelling people for a joke they may have told 20 years ago.
If the people in Golden Square aren't making $1 out of the advertising, you'll be out in your arse. They don't hang around.
Charlie Lawson, it has been too long.
Too long, Dan, too long. Listen, fair play to you, Squire. Well done, you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. It's been a year. You know, it's been a year, but actually things are going incredibly well now, and I'm really, really excited to be here. And I'm delighted to have you because, of course, we are marking the launch of your autobiography. And wow, Charlie, I expected nothing less, but you've gone there. You have gone there. You have gone there with your life. Nothing is off limits. That's life.
So it is.
It's so you, Charlie. It's so you. How difficult was it, though, for you to make the decision to say, okay, it's all going in the book?
Well, I mean, you know, we're here on Honest Radio, so we are. So this year, back end of last year, and this year we're starting to go extremely quiet. I had been asked many years ago to do an autobiography, and indeed I had done the sort of, as you read the book, I'd done those first sort of 10,000 words when I was actually at Corrie, and Granada TV had a publishing house then of their own. And so I sent them the 10,000 words, and they said, we can't possibly touch this with a barge pole because, as you know, I'm dealing with the back end of my contract when, you know, and I'm telling the truth about how it was the Daily Mirror that actually told me I was leaving.
Anyway, the joys of soap exits, Charlie.
You know exactly what I'm on about. But I mean, so there we were at the back end of sort of COVID a couple of years ago. And when we were all told that if we stood up, our granny was going to die, and if we sat down, she'd be fine, and all that bloody nonsense. And incidentally, anybody out there who had the misfortune to lose someone, my deepest sympathies. But some of the things we were asked to do, like have a sausage roll before you get open the door. And
exactly. Come on, let's be honest. It's when a lot of people's eyes were open to the sort of propaganda that the government tries to infect us with. But we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Sorry, continue, Charlie.
Yeah, and so listen, I've kept diaries since the age of about 8 or 9. I hadn't revisited them for a long time, but of course they proved invaluable. And I sat down, and once I'd learned to actually pick up a decent Parker and relearn the mechanics of actually writing, it flowed and flowed and flowed. And then the BBC America correspondent in those days, Emma Varney, who you'll be familiar with. Emma was a great Northern Irish correspondent. She's now American correspondent. And I sent my freehand work to Emma, and she typed it all up. So I couldn't have done it without her. And then I discovered the Word, which is this app on these things. And it actually was done in sort of 7 or 8 months. And as I've said, sometimes quite disturbing to write, but very cathartic. And in the end, I was smiling and I was laughing. So it was a very worthwhile project. And there's no point in writing stuff if you don't tell the truth. So, but as Melvin Bragg said, just remember, you know, your truth is your truth. There will be people out there, and there are, you know, who will say that's not how it happened. As far as I'm concerned, that's how it happened.
And the thing is, Charlie, right? You were one of the great larrikins of Coronation Street in, I think, the glory days of the soap. And it was a little bit wild, right? Things were quite crazy at that time.
Yeah, I think the 90s are probably no holds barred. I mean,
I miss
they're
them.
obviously
I miss the
there were. I mean, there
90s.
were subjects that we didn't deal with, of course, but then that's, it's Weatherfield, it's not Belfast. You know what I mean? People always ask me, why was the subject of Northern Ireland not brought up by Jim? And I said, well, that is one of the things that is the peace process or not, that is off limits, because you're opening a can of worms that nobody will understand in the first place. But as I've said, there were sort of, we when we started in '89, there was sort of like 2 episodes, then it went to 3 very quickly and ended up being 4. So there was less and less room for the crack, so to speak. But by God, we had it in the 90s. We worked hard and played hard. There were an awful lot of egos in that building, but we produced 4 episodes a week, and of course nobody got on. It's all, everybody didn't get on. I mean, it's all in the book, but I mean that's the same in any industry.
Yeah, that's show.
You can be working in a TV studio, for God's sake, and
Well, yes, but
hours.
the slight difference is, Charlie, if we think back to the 1990s, and I remember these days so well, Coronation Street was not just an institution, it was a national obsession. And of course, it was a tabloid obsession. So if you were on Coronation Street at that time, you were a household name. You were world famous in the United Kingdom. That brings a whole load of other pressures because of course, it was also the time, Charlie, and you have dealt with the sharp end of this as well, of tabloid excess, of phone hacking, of blagging, of actually doing whatever it took to find out details about your personal life, because this is pre the world of social media. It was all about selling newspapers.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. People will forget now, sort of all those years forward, and here we are in 25. And look, there was no Levinson, there was nothing in the 90s.
It was the Wild West.
World, the Sun, the Mirror, the Star, the People, they ruled the roost, and they could break you or make you, and you had to be tough and you had to stand up to them. And as I've said in the book, I certainly bloody well did, because I regarded them as human beings, and if one of them stepped on my toes and they were out of order, then I would take absolutely no prisoners. And a couple of them were witness to my slight anger, shall we say. But they were, and they know who they are, and they know now, and most of them are retired and all sitting in their flats in Portugal or something, but they know who they were, and they know how badly behaved they were. Now, I was a survivor, I was okay, and we always talk honestly, Dan. Mine was really drugs and rock and roll and fighting. Do you know what I mean? I was always a faithful boy to my ladies and what have you. So there was nothing really salacious to find out.
You were never cancelled in the same way some other former stars of Coronation Street were. It was almost like a different form of cancellation, wasn't it? Because the front page of the News of the World, if it was drugs or sex, could cause you to lose your job.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think quietly Corrie rather liked my antics, because in those days, if you were on the front page for, staying out all night and all the rest of it, it was really rather good for the character.
Great PR.
My agent would sort of say, "Oh, darling, don't worry. It's absolutely bloody marvelous." And they kind of embraced the crack, so to speak, and my antics, and they were very patient. Although I have to say, I never let anybody down. I might have. I remember once there was a blue letter in my pigeonhole, and I was summoned up to the office, and the then producer said to me, I had been recording a scene in the cabin, and there had been 2 complainants. Guess who? And they were saying that I was smelling of drink. To which I retorted, well, this first scene was at 8:15, and I only got in the door at 7:30. But I was never late, and I didn't let anyone down on the floor. But we lived life to the full, Philip Middlemas and I, and enjoyed ourselves very much. But you were allowed to do that in the 90s.
Yeah, the
Even
90s
though,
was wild. It was pre-woke. There was a little bit of political correctness, but you were there from 1989 to 2000. So as I say, it was the glory days. And of course, you made returns to Coronation Street as well. You're one of those characters that is considered iconic. But things changed, didn't they, Charlie? Because even Coronation Street, and look, I'd say it was one of the most old-fashioned productions in a good way. You know, there's something quite old school about Corrie. I haven't been up for a good few years, but when I used to go up, once I'd got into the industry, there was still something quite old school about it. However, it did change.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, social media came along and mobile phones and the whole thing, the world, the planet changed. And also, incidentally, Dan, if you remember the early 90s, the top shelves in WH Smith's were the top shelves in WH Smith's and every other corner shop. And it certainly wasn't I'm a Celebrity, Mow My Lawn. The top shelf was Men Only, Mayfair, Penthouse, whatever you like. But very quickly during the 90s, with sort of Kylie and Jason and all the rest of it, and social media being born, celebrity began to take over everything. And indeed, Simon and Nick, who played the two McDonald boys, they bore the brunt of a lot of that. As did we already. It all grew, and with that, the universe of television and celebrity changed, etc., etc. And eventually, a few years ago, started to become so politically correct, and there was a microscope on everybody. And we all know now that if you open your gob and say the wrong thing, we are in an era of at the moment where it will go full circle, incidentally, and everybody will wise up and come back to being friggin' normal again. We know that will happen, and the silent majority, as you know, Dan, are starting to speak up about this crap. But going through everything was changing, and of course the program changed with it. Now, I don't watch it now, but I'm reliably informed by my wife and certain other people who I respect in our business that it is no longer character driven. It is by necessity of the times that they are producing the program. It is issue led. You might watch it, I don't know. But everything in our world of television seems to be issue-led. You have to deal with certain issues. You have to deal with, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but only in a particular way.
Your viewers will know too.
Yeah, only in a particular way. And so what that means is that Weatherfield, which used to be this suburb which we felt reflected the way that we lived. And you didn't necessarily have to be in Northern England to feel that. But all of a sudden, we look at what's going on in Weatherfield and we think, this isn't really the way that we are living. It's interesting, though, you speak about Simon Gregson, who, of course, was your on-screen son and became one of the legends of Coronation Street, and it was you and Beverly Callard, Liz, who were his parents. And while you say everyone didn't necessarily get on, he was the best man at your wedding, right? So it was possible to build some lifelong bonds, even in that sort of quite toxic world of Coronation Street. But first, we've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Lake, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some can even be harmful to your skin, he said. Recently, Dr. Lake has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? so that he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. It's almost like Photoshop for your face, he says. You may even be mad after seeing how easy it is to physically erase your wrinkles from view. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Lake has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. If this helps even one person look younger or feel more confident, I'll be thrilled knowing I helped, Dr. Lake commented. The video has since gone viral. At first, it was shared by users on Facebook, but since then, it's racked up over 2.3 million views and counting. So far, the comments and feedback have been outstanding, with thousands of women reporting they look decades younger. One viewer even commented, "Best results of anything I've used. I can't believe how well this works. I'll never stop using this. I don't understand how it works, but the results are great. Thank you." So you can find out much more about this yourself right now. Go to bhmd1.com/outspoken, or it's probably much easier to just click on the link in the description box below. I will repeat the address for you now though, www.bhmd1.com/outspoken. Now, there is one thing Dr. Lake asks from his viewers. If watching this video helps you look and feel younger than you have in years, then please share this video with your friends and loved ones. Together, we have the power to help as many women reclaim a youthful look as possible. So go watch the video at bhmd1.com/outspoken right now, or just click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, look, there were 40 egos in the building when I were there. There's probably about 100 now.
Yeah.
And any actors who tell you that everybody gets on, they're just telling bloody lies, because actors don't all get on. It's as simple as that. But we produced our 4 episodes, and nobody, there was. Look, I said, look, I mean, there were some huge monumental arguments between Liz Dawn and Lynn Perry. I mean, people used to just sit back and smile and fold our arms and watch with glee. People fell out about press leaks, you know what I mean? It is common knowledge. I fell out with Johnny Briggs because I found out that he'd shafted me to the press over a relationship. As I say, you get on and you produce the program, but I made lasting friendships. I mean, Sarah Lancashire and I were incredibly close, and had circumstances been different, who knows what may have happened. Simon and I were very close. And as I say in the book, God rest her soul, when my wife, Leslie, was extremely ill mentally and physically, I was driven to the point of, for 10 minutes, I actually thought about ending my life. And of course, I got in touch with Eva Pope, who played Tanya, and she was an extremely close friend of mine and still is. And I mean, effectively saved my life. So I made incredibly good friends. Peter Armitage, Philip Middlemas, I still see on a monthly basis, and we still get up to no good. We're firm friends, always have been. I made lifelong friends in there, and there were certain people that there she is, and there's Philip. And but there were certain people that I really wouldn't, I wouldn't really be interested in talking to them. They know who they are.
Who's not nice? That's what people want to know.
I started off a relationship with Brian Mosley, and it wasn't a good one. He played Alf Roberts, and we were in on a 2-year contract, and Brian didn't like that, so he didn't, and made it quite clear that he didn't. So we sort of just when we did speak in the green room, it was normally a quiet, well-spoken argument, but we didn't like each other. However, we grew to become very good friends when Brian latterly became ill, and I visited him in hospital at what have you, and men being men, proper grown-up men, we shook hands and got on with it. Same with Johnny Briggs and myself. I played golf with Briggsy every Tuesday, and for a period of time, and then, and in those days there were leaks, and he was leaking, and so we had a stand up in the kitchen in the green room, and then I saw him many years later. We didn't really speak after that, and then I saw him years later at the Do at the Piccadilly Hotel in Manchester, and I was with Debbie. And I said, darling, just give me 5 minutes here, because enough's enough now, and he's getting on, and we need to just. So I went up. This is Johnny, come here, mate. We shook hands and went and had a beer, and the rest was history. So that's what sort of grown men do. There you go.
Yes.
So, but by
Guinness
and
in
large,
hand, Charlie.
by and large, actors, with notable exceptions, through the years, because they have personalities and large egos, as we all do. There is the odd clash, some worse than others, but I would say that I've been doing this 44 years now, and there's probably, I could count the people on one hand that I'm not interested in. Some might surprise you, but you'll have to wait for part 2 for that, I'm afraid.
What's William Roache like to work with? Obviously, the original Ken Barlow, but he's gone through massive ups and downs. Obviously, came very close to cancellation himself.
Yeah, he would be the only person, along with Julie Goodyear, that I'd ever heard of. When I joined Corrie, I've never watched it, and I was at the National Theatre at the time, and very po-faced and sort of thinking, well, what in the name of Jesus would I want to go up and do a soap about Manchester for? So I turned it down previously, and then it was a toss-up between joining the bill and Corrie on a full-time basis. Now, I always called William, never Bill. He was always William to me, and he always called me Charles. And from day one, we had a great mutual respect. I was on the cast committee with William for many years, and I've witnessed him standing up for the rest of the cast on the 6th floor up in Granada TV against the bigwigs, along with Helen Worth and Mick Lavelle. And he played cricket for me, William. He was opening batsman. He had the most wicked sense of humour, and he a thorough gentleman. And don't forget, Dan, he was a veteran. He'd served in Aden, you know what I mean? He never bragged about anything like that. So, a great man. And I saw him a couple of months ago in Prestbury, my village. I was actually outside the Foxhole, one of our local hostelries, and somebody said, "Have you seen who's across the road?" And I immediately crossed the road, left my pint, and went across, and he was there with Verity, his daughter, and we hadn't actually spoken for a couple of years since I'd been back, of my many revisits back to Corrie, and we had I had 10 minutes in the middle of the village having a good chat. And sadly, we were meant to go and have lunch the following week, but filming schedules changed, so as they do. So we missed out on that. But he is a consummate professional. If ever there was, whether you believe in knighthoods for actors or whether you don't, I couldn't be arsed, really. I'm not that bothered. But if there's one person who deserves a knighthood, and that is William Roache.
Yeah, and he doesn't have an honour, does he? He doesn't.
I think he probably does, Danny. I think he may have an OBE, but
okay, but not a
knighthood.
I don't know if he does, because they look at tax, and he's got into this tax issue lately. But I'm completely with you. I mean, 92 years old, the longest running actor, I believe, on any television show anywhere in the world.
On the planet.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. I think he's actually in the Guinness World Records for that. But unfortunately, Charlie, we've got to be honest about it. Despite some legends like him, Coronation Street is no longer what it was. The ratings are tanking. The storylines are woke. And you have predicted that it's possible that it won't even be around in a decade.
Yeah, I mean, it's what are we? The 64th anniversary or whatever the hell it is. I can't 64th. I just think that the way we are now as consumers watching television and watching that box in the corner of our room is changing. And some of it for the worse, some of it for the better. As I say, I really haven't watched an awful lot of stuff at all. I pick and choose, and I suspect an awful lot of people do. So whereas in the 90s, we were at between sort of 12 and 20 million most of the time. I just think I can't work out whether anybody's. I mean, for God's sake, you could watch Dame Maureen there until the cows come home. There's some absolutely great stuff, and I caught a couple of young performances, some of whom a number of years ago were not up to scratch, but I've seen a couple recently that I've been passing through from the dining room to the kitchen or whatever, and I've watched the show. I watched the performance on Corrie, and I thought, well, that's shit hot. That girl's got something, which is great. But Debbie would watch it. I don't. But the whole thing, I think Emmerdale Farm, EastEnders, Coronation Street, I just think they're kind of running out of steam, and not necessarily talent. I just think the way people soak up TV now is totally different. And if they're getting 5 million now, that's a terrible indictment of something. But I suspect it's probably a terrible indictment of the human race and what we sort of consume now and how we consume it now. I might be totally wrong. What do I know? But I know how commercial television works. And believe you me, if the people in Golden Square aren't making $1 out of the advertising, you'll be out in your arse. They don't hang around, you know what I mean? So look, we shall see. I would love to be invited to the 74th reunion party. I doubt I'll be invited to this one actually, but who cares? I don't even know whether they're having a 64th or whatever. But look, I hope it lives forever, but I can't see it myself.
No,
your friend Kevin O'Sullivan will agree. He knows television backwards.
They're done. Unfortunately, I don't watch any soaps anymore, and I used to be someone who did consume them. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.